Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Whew, season 4 is off to a running start, and I am so grateful to all of my guests who say yes. I have had some no's because people are afraid of the camera, but I'm very grateful for my yeses. I'm even more grateful for the individuals that I kind of meet in passing that we connect with, which is how Cheryl and I came together. Cheryl Francis and I bumped heads, and not heads, but into each other at the
Yes.
LPCA when we were down there fighting for LPC rights for the state of Georgia and really trying to build up the mental health skill. So, welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me. So
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
excited to say yes.
Yay, I love that. I love that. So, just a little brief history on Cheryl. She is, of course, a licensed professional counselor, a certified Greek professional trained Argosy University counselor. She's also a counselor supervisor that she helps train other clinicians on this journey to becoming counselors. Her primary approach is cognitive behavioral therapy, where she gets in and she helps individuals train and retrain their thoughts and how they perceive things, process things, and then move to higher heights. In addition, she incorporates spiritual wellness into her practice because we are body, mind, soul, spirit,
Mhm.
and you can't stump your toe and don't think that it doesn't impact other areas. So we got to work through all the parts of who we are, and that's what Cheryl does. She assists individuals through just life stressors. In our technical terms, we call it adjustment disorders. Just learning how to adjust to different lifetime of things. But she deals with individuals who process death, divorce, infidelity, and helps to take them to a healed space. Her passion is to provide training or motivation to organizations and their workers to achieve their absolute greatness. She is a published author, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can find her books. And her holistic measures of addressing every dimension of wellness works together to bring
Mm.
people to their authentic living space. So, welcome aboard, Cheryl. Thank you again.
My pleasure, Marcia. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited about today and what we're going to share together in this community.
Absolutely. So, let's start with how did you even get into mental health?
Wow. I started in college as a finance major. So I do
Okay.
have a finance degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I got lazy toward the end and I wanted to just take an easy course.
Mm-hmm.
I heard psychology, right? And my professor just shifted my whole trajectory. And
Mm.
that's where I started. I remember in high school too, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood.
Okay.
And my teachers, my counselors, everybody, and I'd go to them, and I just never felt like they met my need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be
Oh, okay.
a school counselor, because I'm like, I need to change this for other people who
Mm-hmm.
look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I shifted when I got to college, and I'm like, I'm doing business, I got to make money. But my psychology teacher, here I am, loving every moment, getting my
Yeah.
highs from this.
It's like the mental health or psychological fields draw you.
Yes,
They
yes,
pull you in, they draw the essence of who you are. It's like you bump into it. Now there
yes.
are some people who go out searching to be a part of the field, but to me, those that are anointed and appointed to do this, they bump into it. You
Yeah,
know,
I like that.
what are your thoughts about that?
I think that too, because I tell people I get a high, honestly, sitting in this chair and having someone bring their stuff to me where I can hold it for them. And then
Mm-hmm.
they'd come back and they'd be Oh, I'm so glad. And sometimes I sit here and I'm wondering, I'm not doing anything. You know how we want to work?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I feel like we're fixing things. And no, they just want me to be here. And then they
Mm-hmm.
come back and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can't see. I've thought about leaving the field, but I was made for this. And that connects with your statement, right?
Yeah.
Just here we are. This is where you need to be. So
That
yeah,
anointing and that appointment, when I hear of therapists that are burning out and having a difficult time building practices and things like that, my first question when they come to me for mentorship is, are you anointed, appointed, or did you go?
I love that. I love that, Marcia.
Because when you just go, it leads to burnout. When
Yeah,
you just go, when you have an alternative perspective of what you can do, making money, because yeah, that can't be your driving force. Nor can the desire to heal people be your driving force. Not in therapy. So let's talk a little bit about how you combine wellness, spiritual and mental wellness, to help
mhm.
clients get to that place of self actualization.
Thank you for asking that because that is crucial to what I do. One of my niche, if you want to call, is
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, grief. You talked a little bit about that. And when they come to me, I said, look, when I look at your life, I'm dealing with the mental, because that's why you came. But if I dismiss the other parts of you, then I'm truly not helping. And so I springboard from the 8 dimensions of wellness. And I tell people, I see your life like a pizza pie.
Yes.
8 slices, right? But each slice makes the whole thing well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have to look at each piece.
Yes.
How how is this impacting you? How is
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual impacting you? And we'll talk more
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
How is that emotional piece of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that social piece of you?
Right.
We've got
Right.
to look at each piece to
Mm-hmm.
help the individual get self-actualized, right?
Yeah.
We start here, we got to start somewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we need to ensure that the pieces are balanced,
Yeah.
not perfect, but balanced. Does that make sense?
Exactly. I love that. I love the idea, when clients come to us and they think that there's this thing of perfection, the first thing I share with them is the etymology of perfection simply means to complete.
Mm,
When we take the heaviness out of it having to look like this and be like this, and you comparing, and just know that you complete, we can shade off so many levels of trauma to help people live. How did you get into trauma work?
it found me, truly, truly found me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I, I think I'm a believer,
Yes.
and I believe that a Christian, that
Mm-hmm.
my path is ordered. Here we are. Who would
Mm-hmm.
have thought just by
Mm-hmm.
asking one question? And
Mm-hmm.
so I love learning. I may not retain it all, but I love learning.
Uh-huh.
And I was given that opportunity at one of the places, the first place that I worked, to go to a training.
Okay.
And I went. And of course, here I am because from there, the forgot the name of the place, but they were dealing with helping kids who were abused, right?
Okay.
And that opportunity came up again, and I went. And then I just found myself just being brought to all these different places with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, God, I see what you're doing. And here I am. So it anointing, you might want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you
Mm-hmm.
talk about
Mm-hmm.
it, finding me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. When you think about trauma, Because a lot of people try to box trauma into simply like sexual trauma or domestic violence. What are some areas of trauma that you've had to educate your clients on that is actually, in fact, trauma?
You know, I do grief as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do not look at grief as traumatic, and it
Mm-hmm.
does not have to be the suicide. It does not have to be the homicide, right? It's that divorce after giving half of your life with this person, and then they're no more.
Yeah.
It is me living in another state,
Mm-hmm.
having that system,
Mm-hmm.
and then work might call me to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Something might call me to Georgia, and here I am.
Yeah.
That's traumatic, especially so if I don't have that support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so trauma can be anything. And I'd like to say, like Epictetus, trauma is your perception.
Absolutely.
Because you and I might have that same experience, but we
Mm-hmm.
look at it differently. I might be traumatized by it. You're
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So trauma can be anything we perceive it to be, but it's trauma nonetheless if you perceive it to be. And so we're going to work through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When people ask me about grief, I have a very simple definition of grief. It is anything that has disrupted your normal way of experiencing life.
I
It's
love
what
that.
grief is,
I love
because if relationship changes, we can long-term friendships and there's a fallout. If there are, changes in your intimate life, siblings, all of those things are grievable moments, job changes, looked over on a job, and people don't realize that is very it's a part of the makeup to help healing,
Yeah.
but it still has a right to be grieved. Right.
Yes.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you this question. When you think about trauma and grief, I want to
Mm-hmm.
add in trauma responses.
Okay.
What do some trauma responses look like
Trauma responses in terms of grief or in general?
in general?
In general, that's so loaded.
I know.
That's so loaded, right? And that is the thing. A lot of times we're looking for these big things, these big behaviors, and it could be as simple as withdrawing.
Yes.
It's as simple as becoming mute
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
not becoming mute
Mm-hmm.
100%, but mute in this environment or mute in that environment, right?
Right.
It is not wanting to be.
Right. Right. Right.
So it's not those big things that we're looking for. We see the behaviors in those
Mm-hmm.
that are traumatized, like maybe a child who's been violated. We might see the promiscuity, right? And we're like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a trauma response.
Right. Right.
But a trauma response is that child over there who's just withdrawn, that
Mm-hmm.
child over there who's just not being their best selves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It,
So
it
there
definitely
are
is.
variety.
Yeah, trauma responses, and I like how you kind of nestled it into a fine box, right? Because trauma responses look different on everyone. It could be irritability or argumentative. I shared with a client earlier that their response to a situation, I said, you do realize that you're in survival mode and you're
Mhm,
responding to your trauma, not the situation.
mhm.
And they were like, oh, yeah, let's go back into that trauma.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's some more healing. The big word right now or the fad word right now is triggered.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about the use of triggers and processing?
Ooh, I like them both. I hear them a lot. I hear them every, but I want to go back too, because you said something that made me think about trauma
Mm-hmm.
responses, right? Um, we hear a lot of complaints. You talk about irritability, but
Mm-hmm.
complaints and what you said made me think of that is also a trauma response because I'm out of control. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I have control. So the only way I can control it is by complaining, because just maybe somebody will hear me.
Yes, yes,
Somebody
yes.
will hear.
Complaints and insults
Yes,
because they don't
yes.
have a defined defense of emotional control. So it's like, let me hit you at the jugular. Let me be
Come on.
super mean. Let me be super nasty and cut you off. And then I'm going to win. I'm going to feel,
Yes,
and the truth is nobody wins because there's a lot of damage in those responses and in the survival mode.
yes.
What are your thoughts
Yes.
about surviving and processing? Because I keep hearing everyone saying, "Well, I'm processing,"
We
and
gotta process this. Go
well,
ahead and
I
process.
challenged
Do
the
what you
client
need.
yesterday. I
Go
said to
ahead.
them, I said, "You've been processing for 6 months. When are you going to enable what
Do.
you're processing?" What are your thoughts about that?
I allow, I love the fact that they're ready to process,
Mm-hmm.
because that tells me they might be stuck,
Mm-hmm.
but they're doing something to
Mm-hmm.
move. They
Mm-hmm.
just can't move. Like your client, for 6 months, you've been processing, right? But how do we move? So I'm okay with you processing, because that tells me you're giving it some thought, because
Right.
that's my
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Giving it some thought, you're ready, maybe halfway to address it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you are not moving yet, right? So let's process it. Let's talk about it all we want,
Mm-hmm.
right? Processing, you use the word survival. Processing is another way of them surviving,
Absolutely.
because whatever it is so daunting that
Mm-hmm.
they can't handle it. So let me process it. Let me process it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
process, baby. If that's what you need, if
Mm-hmm.
that's how you can handle it, then process. And you
Mm-hmm.
asked about trigger. For me, the trigger helps them to process it,
Absolutely.
right? And so a trigger is whatever it is that touches you wrong. That's my layman terms. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
use any big words, right? That's my layman. It touches you different. You're like, ouch,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether an emotional ouch, a
Mm-hmm.
physical ouch,
Mm-hmm.
a social ouch, it's touching you in a way that you're having to deal with it.
Absolutely. And that's why I think it's so important when individuals come into therapy that they become self-aware of their triggers, that they can identify why am I feeling some type of somatic response to this?
Yeah.
Why now? What came up
Mm-hmm.
in this? Because a lot of times people don't even realize that I am responding to a trigger
Yeah.
versus an attack.
Mm.
Because when I'm attacked, I'm going into a defense. When
Yes.
I'm triggered, I'm going to go into a defense, but I don't really know what I'm fighting because I hadn't become self aware, right?
Oh, Marcia, that's good.
What are your thoughts about that?
I love that. That is so true, right? Because if you're not aware, you don't know what you're doing. And my
Mm-hmm.
philosophy is awareness brings change,
Yes.
right? So the trigger, the attack, which is it?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, how do I
Mm-hmm.
respond?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I shared with someone earlier, I said, I need you to understand that your posture of defense is coming from the illusion that when someone says to no to you, that they're rejecting you versus rejecting the situation.
Mm,
That's typically a trigger response because if you go way back into childhood, because I'm an uncoverer, I will
mm,
go back into the womb if it's available
mm,
for me to determine where your baseline is. And so
mm.
rejection usually comes back in that Maslow hierarchy of safety and belonging and protection. And they usually miss that. So, how do you help clients to really understand that healing is movement?
Ooh. Healing is movement.
Mhm.
given me a different lens to look through with that question.
Mm,
I start out almost every session telling my clients, I am looking for change. I really
mm,
do. And my change is not from an F to an A because we all get those letters.
right.
It's from an F to an F plus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very strength based.
Mm-hmm.
And so a client will come in, I always give homework, CBT. So we're giving homework, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the homework might be, let's see if you can exercise 3 times this week. And
Yes,
they come in and they're like, Cheryl, you said half an hour, I only did 15. And I'm putting on my pom-poms and I'm going, yay.
absolutely. Those small
And
achievements.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I remind them, remember that F to an A, F
Mm-hmm.
plus,
Mm-hmm.
movement.
Mm-hmm.
And movement is F pluses. We're
Mm-hmm.
still there, but we're getting unstuck.
Absolutely.
And I just work with them from that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the big hurrahs,
Right.
but if I can help them see that they are starting to get unstuck, then
Mm-hmm.
they're okay with movement because they're like, oh, I didn't do something today. I do substance use too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something
Mm-hmm.
else
Oh,
that
okay.
found me on accident.
Uh-huh.
Um, and one client, I gave a homework and they came back and they're like, I just realized that I drank less than I did last week. Movement. They
Mm-hmm.
came in never thinking that they could do it, but I challenged them with their permission,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Let's see if you can. It's
Exactly.
drinking is legal. Let's see if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I'd hate to think that it's pleasing me, right?
Right.
But that person has been sober, not seeing that person anymore. But last time we met, sober for 6 months, because that's about
Mm-hmm.
how long we stayed together.
Mm-hmm.
Movement,
Yes.
healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the big hoorahs. It's the little things that you choose to no longer do. I'll turn it back on me to Marcia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Changing my eating habits. I love
Mm-hmm.
rice. I love rice. And I went through this program where I couldn't eat rice for 8 weeks.
Mind over matter.
Right. I was able to do it. And I look back
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I can't believe I actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
Movement.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, healing. As a result, change. And that's how
Yes.
I help my clients.
Absolutely. You know, you say something that I always say to clients is stop looking for the Big Bang Theory. There are no results there. The results are in the small intentional steps that you're making towards healing, confronting your
Yeah,
pain,
yeah.
understanding that you have a right to be your most authentic self, and giving yourself permission to say, I can change my narrative because what everyone else has told me about me, I'm no longer that. How do you help clients to redirect some of the heaviness that mom and them can put on church, friends, school, all of these ideologies about how this person is that weighs so heavy that they can't change? How do you help them break free? Or they won't change it until they come to therapy.
A lot of times I remind them who they are.
Mm.
And
What if they don't know who they are?
that's where I'm gonna go. So they would come with the mom stuff, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
When I remind them you are not mom, I'm
Mm-hmm.
always doing an assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would use that assessment. I said, I look in your assessment because you're giving me this litany of stories about mom and mom did what. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't see any similarities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I just help them to understand that they are not who people say they are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a poem, I won't use it here, that I love to pull out. But
Okay.
at the end, it says, I am me and I am okay. In there, it says, if at any time I find something unfitting, I can discard it.
You got to recite the poem now. You can't. You
I don't know
can't
if
just give me a little bit to chew on and then leave me hanging.
sure how much I could share here. It's a poem that says, I Am Me by Virginia Satir.
Okay.
And what it does, it talks about this is who I am. I have some good parts. I'm summarizing her poem. I have some good parts, some bad parts. And if there's at any time that I feel like there's some parts of me that's not fitting the new me that I want to go to, I have the right to change it. And that's how I help them shift.
Mm.
Because I'm going to remind them I work with 18 and up, right?
Okay.
So they're grown. I
Mm-hmm.
remind them that they're grown. I usually have an adjective that I add to that, right? And I said, let's springboard from that self
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to give you permission that nobody else has.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about ourselves. Sometimes we just need permission
Yeah.
because we've been kept in this box. Mom and them says you are this, you are that. And I'm like, yeah, they said that. But let me remind you, in this country, 18 and over, you're grown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you want to navigate the rest of you? How do you want
Exactly.
to navigate that?
Mm-hmm. And you
So
can't keep blaming all of the stuff in the past. We're not saying ignore the trauma because there are
mhm,
some lessons in the trauma. What we are saying is don't let the trauma take root in you.
don't define yourself by it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You are not your trauma. I was talking to a supervisor today,
Mm-hmm.
and this individual was asking me how I address trauma because she's CBT trained as well as I'm CBT trained. And
Mm-hmm.
CBT, we rehash the trauma. You
Mm-hmm.
write the story. I don't believe you need to rehash the story to get healed.
Right. I think
First,
that you need to identify what the story is, the components of the story, and then redirect your truth. Because the
there it is,
story that
Marcy.
you have is what everybody else has told you, not your story.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need to do for our
Mm-hmm.
clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
Help them to understand, look, the past is the past. There's nothing you can do about it. The balloon's been popped, the milk's been spilled. What do you got now? You got the glass. What are we going to do with the glass? What are we going to do with the remainder of the balloon?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm working with. As broken and in pieces as you are, that's what I want because I
Mm-hmm.
can help you if you allow me to
Absolutely.
use those pieces
Mm-hmm.
and move forward so you're not living in that vein that they say that you are, whomever they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I want you to
Exactly.
redefine you.
You know, one of the things that I challenge my clients to do is to get an empty canvas and use that canvas to either build a house with it, where you have a new flooring system, where you're having to add all of these adjectives to your flooring system, and then your walls, and then your roof, and of course, your doors and windows and stuff. And or I just say, I need you to fill that canvas with the words that actually describe who you are, not what they
Yes.
told you who you are.
Yeah.
And then I want you to hang it up in your house like a masterpiece. Because the reality is people will tell us the story that can allow them to manipulate us
Yes.
until we
Yes.
go through the healing of the trauma.
Yes. Something similar that I do, I use sticky notes. I'm like practical,
Oh yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
And I ask them, what do you want to be? What are you working on? What do you want to
Mm-hmm.
become? Who do you want to become? Oh, I want to feel pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have a mirror, you brush your teeth at least once a day. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to write on that sticky note, I am beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're not going to believe it, but I need you to write it and I need you to repeat it every single day. Let it get in you. Let your
Absolutely.
senses connect with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then advertently, as you keep doing it, it becomes who you are
You
because
know,
you've been listening to that narrative that's not been you.
exactly.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was just getting ready to say, I encourage them to, in their first session, I need you to create 5 affirmations. And then I
Mm,
need you to speak them breakfast, lunch, and dinner for as
come on.
often that you put a morsel in your mouth, because now we're going to uproot all of that that trash
Yes.
that was left behind, and we can't
Yes.
uproot without replacing.
Come on.
You
That's
can't,
it.
I'm just gonna go in there and I'm gonna deal with the triggers and I'm gonna tell everybody and I'm gonna set these boundaries. No, y'all just said in words, there are no consequences to your boundaries because you hadn't set a boundary for yourself. So let's talk about that. How
Yeah.
do you encourage clients that are processing through their trauma, getting to the healed place to establish boundaries on how they treat themselves and therefore how others treat them?
I teach my clients to say no.
Mm.
You're like, no? Yeah, that's a powerful word. No,
Mhm, mhm,
right? And I even give them stories to use.
mhm.
And that might mean because when we're traumatized, we've been violated in one way or the other, whether through grief or whatever, right? We've lost our sense of saying no and being authentic to ourselves. And especially in our community a lot,
Yes.
we're not taught to say no.
Mhm,
And we don't know how to say no.
mhm,
And no might mean you really don't have to answer that phone when it rings. But they're gonna call, yeah, you could turn it off too,
mm.
right? You
Practical.
can turn it off. Practical.
Mhm.
No means, but they want me at the party and I really don't want to go. Well, girl, you could find a reason.
Or you can ask yourself, why do they want me? Are they asking me to bring something? Are they asking me to take them? Are they asking me to be the designated driver? What do they want with me at this party that I really don't want to go to?
I
When's the
like
last time
that.
they invited me to a party and I didn't have to bring anything?
Right, right. I like that. But you
Mm-hmm.
want to know something, Marcia? I think for them, that's working too hard. My clients to work too hard. So it is, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my face just accentuated selfishness because
Mm-hmm.
I've shifted it to self-care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't look at it as self-care, right? But being selfish is prioritizing you in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's where,
Selfishness is a healing space.
yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes.
And not selfishness to be crass
No,
or to be malfeasious or to be abusive, but selfishness from a space of self protection, self
yes,
healing, self
yes,
acceptance.
yes, ma'am. And
Mm-hmm.
putting that oxygen mask on first.
Yes, yes,
Because you got to
absolutely.
get selfish to be able to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
we weren't taught that. We're not taught that. But we're not going to be any help to anyone because we've got our stuff. We're dealing with our
Mm-hmm.
stuff, our trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We're not putting that oxygen mask on. We can't breathe anyhow.
Exactly.
So how
Exactly.
about start breathing first before,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
it really starts, and to help me out here, it starts with the permission that you give yourself. What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It has to,
Mm-hmm.
because it goes back to the affirmations that you talk about. You have
Mm-hmm.
to believe that you're worthy. You're
Mm-hmm.
worthy, first of all, to give yourself permission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're worthy to be where you want to be on your time, in your time.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Mm-hmm.
permission,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
permission to get to that space of belonging, however you choose to belong, love yourself, however you choose to love yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually to be self-actualized.
Yes, because that is ultimately the goal. So define self-actualization.
Wow. From my perspective, because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It is feeling good about you, how you do what you do, why you do what you do, and being okay regardless of others' perception.
Oof. That's money in the bank.
Right there.
That's money in the bank because When you reduce the need for external validation
Yes.
and you become the internal validation, you can cash a check every day.
Every day,
Because you're
Marcia.
not waiting for a handout, you're not waiting to be seen, you're not waiting to receive forgiveness. You can cash your check every day because you become your cheerleader in
Yes.
that. How do you think that's helpful for clients to really understand the need to reduce external validation?
It is so important because especially in this day and age, we we get lonely.
Talk about it.
You and I are here and we're seeing each other. And our younger generation, especially, they don't know what it's like to play outside till it gets dark, unless it's a sport,
Yes.
right? And so we're behind this screen and we get in crowds, we get in places, but we're still lonely.
Mm-hmm.
When you are okay with being you, authentically you,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what other people thinks about you, you can be okay with being by yourself. You
That
don't
part.
need to let other people in. You don't need to be somewhere. You don't always need to be on the phone
Mm-hmm.
because you're okay. You're self-actualized. You haven't arrived now, but
Yes.
you're self-actualized and you're okay. You're okay if you don't call me today. You can be okay and you don't have to think, I wonder what I did.
Right.
Why does it have to be
Right.
you? Why
Mm-hmm.
does it have to be you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're okay with knowing that I might not need to be in their presence all the time. They might not need to call me all the time. I'm okay. I'm dealing with my stuff. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah,
love that. I love that getting to that place of I'm okay is so very powerful because when you can say to you in truth, I'm okay,
mhm,
you have healed through the trauma, you've
mhm,
healed through the triggers, you've aligned yourself spiritually, you've aligned yourself mentally, you've aligned
mhm.
yourself physically because I'm okay. Ah, that's powerful. That's powerful, Cheryl.
It is powerful and it doesn't happen overnight.
It, say that one
You,
more time for the people that think we have a magic wand.
for the insurance company, no, it
Right.
does
This is
not.
for the insurance companies. We don't have a
Nor in
magic wand.
sessions, nor in 3 sessions, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And
Mm-hmm.
we go back to, I go back to starting out where you said, intertwine that spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
As a person of faith, I know where the answer is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I want to also say, I also understand spirituality is not just about religion,
Right. There's
right?
a two different planes.
Exactly. It is,
Mm-hmm.
it is, it is your search for meaning.
Come on now.
It's your search for meaning. And that might mean you might need to go out there in nature and get realigned.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are people of faith, it is being realigned, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when you can tap into that and understand, because for me, that's my foundation. That's where I springboard from. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always assessing my clients because, we have to be careful in our work when it comes to that piece of it,
Right.
because we want to respect the individual. And so when I understand where they are, I'm interspersing that.
Mm.
Whatever it means for them, I'm interspersing that
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, we are spiritual beings and we want to be
Period.
in alignment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so we want to connect that way.
Oh no, I'm just sitting here in the amen corner saying yes. Because religion is an institution. It's like education is like anything else. Your chosen path of spirituality and connection to the creator is personal.
Hmm.
You have to delve into it from a personal space because it's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of
Yeah,
noise going
yeah,
on, pulling people one way or the other. But what is your connectivity to your belief system?
yes.
So your belief system can help align your process of healing. I tell people all
Mm,
the time, listen, you can't have faith and worry in the same mouth.
doesn't exist.
Doesn't work. They counteract
Mhm.
against each other and they cross each other out. Being able to align who you are spiritually in your growth process, whether it's down on your knees praying, to meditation, to going outside and standing in the grass and deep
Mhm.
breathing and reconnecting to the earth, whatever your spiritual plane is, that's personal.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
have to be willing to choose what looks right for you in your healing so that you can be in your truth.
yes. And
I
that's
tell
what
people
it
all the
is, in
time, I
your
said,
truth.
exactly. I told someone I'm going to have a t shirt made that says, I'm a holy heathen. Because the road and journey to the relationship that you have with the creator is so very personal that you can be sidetracked by the organizational side of things
Mm-hmm.
and miss your connection.
Yeah.
You gotta align body, soul, mind, spirit
Mm-hmm.
to your healing in
Yeah.
order for you to, in my opinion, achieve levels of self actualization. What
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts?
I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with that because we don't just arrive. It's a process. And I think that's how I started it, right? It's a process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And to be in alignment, you've got to take into consideration the whole person.
Yeah.
Go back to my pizza scenario.
Mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
layman terms here, right? And if there's an imbalance, then it's going to be very difficult.
Mm-hmm,
And to get into balance, you started it off by saying you've got to become aware,
mm-hmm,
self-aware.
mm-hmm,
Self-awareness brings change. You've got to
mm-hmm,
be aware of the triggers, right?
mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
coming out and where those triggers coming from. And what am
Yeah.
I going to do with those triggers and how am I going to process those triggers? Right? Self-aware.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And as I become self-aware, I choose, okay, I want to let this go. I want to keep this, even though some people might not like it. It
mm-hmm,
fits me. I'm going to
mm-hmm,
keep it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Still processing, still going up, right? And then when I get to what I'm comfortable with, I'm there.
Yeah.
Not at arrival now, but I'm
Mm.
there where I can be okay.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, arrival is not the word. I'm not fully fulfilled, right? But
Mm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
there where I can start addressing some of the stuff that I've not been addressing some of the stuff that has kept me stuck
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
love
working
that.
with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
talk with my
unstuck
hands.
part.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, no, no. You're just fine. So, wow, this has been a beautifully engaging conversation. And I really hope that the audience understands the importance of the holistic body,
Yes.
mind, soul, spirit
Yes.
approach to healing in all things that they do. The importance of understanding your triggers to healing into moving into self actualization, processing, but not sitting too long
Yeah.
in it, putting some action, making it movable. What would be some closing words that you would have for the audience?
Well, I want to let them know that trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right, and toxicity, it does affect every single one of us.
Yes.
And it's not the big thing, right? There's some invisible wounds of trauma.
You
You
gotta
see,
hit that for a minute. Talk about it.
the invisible wounds are the ones that you don't see. It's what you talk about, the triggers.
Mm-hmm.
What are some trauma responses,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Those invisible wounds might show up like burnout.
Yes.
We are working 24/7 because somewhere along the line, trauma happened. And
Mm-hmm.
then we see it coming out as burnout because we're working, trying to, get it all done, but in
Yeah.
essence, hurting ourselves. That's an invisible wound.
Wow. Wow. That's rich.
And if we're not addressing it,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna impact not just us, but everybody in our space,
Everyone that extends from who you are.
everyone in our space. And so I
Mm-hmm.
want them to know trauma is real. Trauma happens. Trauma has some invisible wounds. Trauma pushes you into spaces that you're wondering why you're there and you don't
Mm.
even know how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma response, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But you can be healed.
Say that again.
You are
Please.
not your trauma.
Mm.
Trauma happened to you, but trauma doesn't have to define you.
And that is the message. You are not your trauma. You are not even the subject of your trauma.
Yeah,
That's huge.
yeah.
I think that's going to help some people break away from getting dressed in their trauma
I
because
love
they
that.
realize that they no longer have to be clothed in the idea of their trauma. Again, not saying that your trauma didn't happen.
We're
We
acknowledging
validate
it.
that trauma happened in your life. What we're also telling you, though, is you don't have to be dressed in it. You can change
No,
your clothes.
you can change your clothes because trauma may have happened to you, but it didn't touch your core. How do I know it didn't touch your core? Because you're here with me today.
Come on
The
now.
core of who you are
Mm-hmm.
is here with me today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I won't take it away from you. I can't take it away from you because it happened to you. It's a part of you, but
Mm-hmm.
it still didn't touch your core. And so you can be physically well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You can do what you need to do to take care of your body, what you put in your mouth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can be spiritually well, find meaning, find connection, find your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You can be intellectually well, you can learn,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the trauma, socially well, be in relationship, healthy relationship with people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
emotionally well, healthy relationship with yourself. So you can be in healthy relationship with others. Even your environment sometimes, Marcia, can show trauma. But again, you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Different parts of us, the wellness parts of us,
Mm-hmm.
we can let those heal us.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Clear the clutter from your environment and heal.
Clear the
Trauma has
clutter.
clutter. Clear the clutter, see healing.
I love that. Clear the clutter. I love that. I love, 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 love that. So, can you tell the audience how, first of all, let's talk about the books, where they can get them from, and then how they can connect with you on social media or other avenues?
So awesome. Thank you for asking about my book. I just released a book last month. Last month. I'm trying to put it up on Audible, so I haven't really pushed it yet because I wanted everything out and then, but it's called going finding your path through pain to live stronger, affirmations for divorcees. A
Nice.
lot of trauma, right? And we've got to fill that bucket with clean water because
Mm-hmm.
we've got a lot of yucky stuff. That's what that book is about. It's just a book of affirmations. My very
Love it.
first book, Journaling the Journey, it's a journal, but it's about how you can use that space to heal yourself through
Mm-hmm.
fasting. Whether or not you're fasting to lose weight or you're fasting for spiritual reason, it just
Mm-hmm.
helps you document, write the vision, make it plain. What are you trying to achieve, right? To heal
Exactly.
those trauma
Mm-hmm.
wounds. And then I have a burnout. workbook as well as a actual book on beating burnout. So those are my four so far. I'm excited about that. Thank you for
Yay.
mentioning them. Excited, excited. All about helping people feel better, working through their trauma and being their best selves.
I love it. So can they get your books on your website?
You
Do they
can
come
get it
to
on my website
Mhm.
or Amazon.com.
You got to throw the website out there. Because you know we're
Cheryl,
boycotting
thank you.
Amazon right now. So throw it on out there to after Passover, and then we can get on Amazon. But
That's right. That's right. Thank you. My website is heartmatterswellness.com. Thank you, Marcia. Heartmatterswellness.com. You can find out everything, Cheryl, on there, my itinerary, where I'm going to be next, what I got going on. And of course, you can find me on Facebook, heartmatterswellness.com.
I love, love, love it, Cheryl. Thank you for your yes. Thank you for healing the community one person at a time as they heal through their trauma, giving them insight and hope. I really am looking forward on going out there to your website and grabbing the books and having them in my own bookshelf. Um, and just as a friendly reminder, like, comment, share, ask us questions on this podcast so that we can best help you process your trauma. Remember, Authentically Peculiar with Marcia releases episodes every Sunday at 8 a.m. You can also find on YouTube, but you can also find it on all of your favorite streaming apps. Any information that you need to find out about Marcia, purchasing my books or anything, marciablaine.com, all the information is there. But I am so looking forward to getting everyone into a place of self actualization through healing. Cheryl, thank you again.
My pleasure.
See you
Thank you
all
for having
next Sunday. You're so welcome. See you all next Sunday on the next episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia.